Thanks everyone. I know this is the last presentation of the day, so hopefully you're not all overwhelmed yet and have a little bit of energy left to pay attention for a few more minutes. All right, this session was going to be the business process automation session. Francois and I are both going to host this one together. We'll shift back and forward. Hopefully the mic situation here works okay with us shifting around. So what we'll go through today, we're going to talk about business process automation, what we mean by it, when is a good, why you should automate, when you should automate. We'll talk about how we can connect, what the options we have of automating and extending Business One are. And we'll talk a little bit about the integration platform. I think probably everyone's heard it. It looks like familiar faces from earlier presentations, so I don't think we need to hop on it too much. And then we'll give a few examples of pure automations, and then we'll give a few examples of add-ons and extensions, just a few concepts to kind of give you an idea of possibilities and what could be done so that you can think of if there's any use cases that you can think of that you would want that might make sense for you. And then just go through some of those. We've got some recordings of some of those, give you some examples. So introductions. I'm Cameron Fisher. I think everyone was in the presentation earlier, so I won't go too much into it again. I'm the Director of Technical Services, managing the technical team for support of infrastructure and for implementation of developments and extensions. And Francois?
Hi everyone, I think I've seen most of you in one of my previous sessions as well. Francois Conradi, I am the integration specialist that helps with automation and integration at Aclaros, working with Cameron now for the last 5 or so years. So I think I've worked with many of you as well. So I'll just do a quick introduction of what is business process automation. Now, some of you may have heard the following quotes of the factory of the future will only have 2 employees, a man to feed the dog, and the dog makes sure no one touches the equipment. So that's not entirely what Business One automation or business process automation is about. Our plan is not to take the man out of the business or the person out of the business, but what we do want to achieve is we do want to use technology to automate repetitive tasks and business processes that will help minimize human intervention and improve efficiency. So we just want to take what your business already does, want to automate some of that, and we want to help you do your work better. Now, there are a few reasons why we automate. And the one thing I want you to know is that we won't necessarily want to try and automate a system or a process for all of these reasons. So we might touch on a few of the reasons or even just one of these reasons, and that should be enough. So what I'm talking about is increased efficiency, improved accuracy, faster decision making, scalability, and consistency. We might implement an automation process that will help you to convert AR documents to AP documents or vice versa, and that will touch on improved efficiency, accuracy, and faster decision making, but that won't necessarily help with any of the others. So even if you walk away from the session thinking, okay, there's one element of the business that we can automate for one of these reasons, that should be enough. Now, I'm going to just briefly go over these slides again. You've seen this before, so this is just our SAP landscape, and SAP knows that extension and automation is a big portion of why you want to use Business One.
I think we talked about the digital core concept that SAP wants. SAP is a collection of core processes, those 15 modules that we talked about earlier, some of which are in the web client now and some are still getting there. But those are the business processes. Those are the best practice business processes across organizations pretty much universally. And then SAP is giving us the ability to integrate, extend the existing solution, add new functionality, add new business processes into the core tool. Whereas earlier in the integration session, we talked about taking different best-in-class solutions and working with them together. There's also the ability to extend the solution and build your own completely custom, completely unique scenarios that are unique to you, that maybe give you either automation benefits, automating, reducing manual work, letting you focus on things that are value added, or introducing business processes that are going to give you more of a competitive advantage in the workplace. We'll get onto some examples later of business processes where you extend the kinds of discounts that you can offer to customers. And then we'll also talk about enhancements. Enhancements is maybe not core business processes, but adding a function that makes something a little bit easier or a little bit more accessible, speeds up a specific task. And then again, the tool sets that we have to work with for this, we have the SDK, so that's our software development kit, and that exists for both the thick client and is now coming out for the web client. Web client, the UI interface extensions are pretty new. There's some limitations still, but it's getting there. And then we can interface direct with the service layer, which is a RESTful modern web interface, and we can interface directly with databases. So we'll talk about what is the difference between, in my mind, for this purpose, what's the difference between an automation and an extension? Automation, we're talking about taking something that you're doing anyway in a business or in one system or another system, and you have predefined business rules that we've codified, that we can define what do you need to do, how do we want to process this, and automate the processing of those things. So we're using existing inputs, data that you've already put on in a sales order, maybe data that you've put in on business partners or items. We're using that, taking rules that we've defined in the system, and we're going to use that to mechanize and create the end result that we want. And then we'll move towards handling things by exception. We're not expecting to ask for more user input. That's where when we get to an extension, we need extensions for things that are going to be done in real time. You need to get feedback immediately, or you need to give input immediately to say, I need you to do this, or I need to enter data in a specific way, or I need to tell you immediately that something is wrong and you're missing a piece of data. And it's also when there are times that if you need an interface in a user interface, where we have to build an add-on, something that you can see and interact with on screen, not something that can be automated and dealt with in the background. So integrations that we talked about, those are pretty much examples of automation, where we're automating, taking one system, making it connect to another system. We've got the business rules defined of how we want to translate the data from the one system to the other. That's an automation. An extension is more, we'll get some examples later, but MyWave is more of an example of an extension. There's a new user interface that's been developed. They're asking you for prompts, they're making changes and affecting changes in the system based on those prompts and inputs that you've given. Why do we do automations? We're going to do automations to reduce time for processing repetitive tasks, improve our accuracy of processing data so that we're not making mistakes by translating things from one system to another. And then extensions, that's when we need to we're doing an extension because we need to automate a task that requires real-time feedback or user input, or we're implementing solutions that are new business processes, custom business processes that are being put in on top of SAP.
So I'll take us through a few of our business process automations that we've done for customers in the past. I'll just do a few individual pieces, and then I'll talk about one example where we piece together a whole bunch of different automations to talk together to form a single automation that becomes one of the cornerstones of a business. So actually, sorry, just to briefly talk about our integration framework. Why we use it is because of the three core principles of being adaptable, version agnostic, and scalable. So adaptable, we can quickly and easily change any of the business logic or the field structure in your automation as your business needs change. So it's not a fixed one-time implementation. We can update the logic. The version agnostic is pretty much that whenever you want to upgrade your SAP, our integration framework already comes pre-configured for the new versions of SAP. So your automations, they are already automatically in line with the new versions of SAP. This might sound small, but we've had customers in the past where they've put off on upgrading their SAP because the extensions or the integration that they've built or that they've gotten from other partners or other platforms are no longer viable with the newer versions of SAP. Then it is scalable, so as your organization grows, as the transaction volume grows, SAP or the Business One integration framework will be able to handle that. Or if you want to just copy the existing logic that you have and ramp up a secondary parallel integration, that can be easily achieved as well. And the great thing is most of our automation, all of our automations already use the integration framework. So this is by default already part of the benefit to you. Now I'll just run through a couple of the examples. So the first one would be where employees are often tasked with inputting data into SAP, various different forms, various different places, and this can take up a sizable chunk of their day. What's worse is sometimes they need to key in the same information on multiple platforms, and sometimes even on the same platform multiple times, which really adds up to a lot of wasted time for employees. Sometimes estimates go up as far as 40% of employees' time is spent on routine tasks that can be automated. Now, one of the examples that we've done is the customer had used the SAP timesheet module to record time spent on anything. So whether that is a service call, a production order, however, or whatever the function of an employee was, they are then asked to record their time on a timesheet module. Traditionally, employee might also be asked to also add their time either to production order or service invoice. So what we've done with the integration is we've automated the portion where instead of keying time into timesheet and production order and or service invoice, that portion is automated. So you just need to key in your time for a specific employee for a specific day once, and that gets pulled through to the production order automatically. There are a few other cases that we can do this with as well. We can automate data flowing from purchase order. If your delivery date times change on the purchase order, we can let that flow through to any associated sales orders as well, if you have a drop shipping process related as well. Next up, automating emails. So we know a lot of you send emails to customers to keep them up to date on the latest status of their orders. And we know that emails is not the fun part of your day. Studies have shown that employees or professionals check their emails around 15 times a day, which can be up to once every 37 minutes. It can take up to 2 to 3 hours to manage your emails on a daily basis, which is a lot of productive time, but it's not necessarily always value for money time that you need to spend on your organization. So we know that automating emails is a big part of what we can take off of your plate to help you not manage emails, but also keep your customers informed. So what we talk about here is when, for example, invoices are posted into SAP, we can package that information from an invoice and we can send an email out to your customer notifying them of the status of their order, send them information or a PDF of their order, give them a breakdown of the content of the order, essentially just a way for you to keep them up to date. Now, there are a few ways that we can do this. We can either do this through Business One events, so whenever a document is posted in SAP. We can also do this through a time-based schedule. So once a day, once a week, we can send an automated email notifying customers of invoices that are imminently due or of invoices that are already past the due date. We can either hard code the email content. We can give you some customization options. We have a few options available there. And we can also add a range of attachments. So this can be either the Crystal Reports PDF that is associated with a specific document, or we can create a text file, CSV. There are a few different cases of how we can extract attachments and then add that to emails as well. And then your recipients there's a few different ways where we can determine your recipients. That can either just be the customers that are associated with a specific document or any other business logic that you want to employ. Now, Cameron touched a bit about the intercompany solution, so I won't go into too much detail, but largely speaking, the four core areas that intercompany likes to touch on is master data sharing, standardizing business process, automating and collating, and then consolidating and monitoring. So the intercompany solution was something that SAP also developed along with the integration framework because they knew that companies wanted to link various instances of SAP together. So they knew that the integration framework can be used for that as well. So with replicating master data, it's essentially you have your core or primary SAP instance, and any master data created in there will be fed through to any of your subsidiaries as well. Standardizing business processes, similar to what we did with the timesheet portal or the timesheet entry, you can standardize the input process there and that will flow through to other documents. with the automating and collation, marketing documents, dropshipping, replenishment automation, there are a few different ways in which you can structure AR, AP, receiving documents so that they can be created automatically, so that some of the functions can be a little bit more hands-off, so that you can spend time on actual value-added tasks in SAP. And then finally, consolidate and monitor, creating journal entries from subsidiaries into your primary company, just to keep your holding company up to date with the latest financial information. Now, those are a few standalone aspects, but the amazing thing is when you actually pull them all together and you make them work as one single integration. And depending on your use case, this can either be a drop shipping scenario, or can just be a portion of your business that you just know that it can be quite hands-off, but just because of the number of documents that you need to go through in SAP, there's just a lot of hands-on processing that needs to happen. What they have is a business-to-business online order portal. So companies can log on, create an order on their e-commerce, and we've built an integration that will then bring that sales order into SAP. But Southwest Vets want this to be a dropshipping process where they can just send this order through to vendors that are associated with the items, so that the vendor can actually fulfill that order for them. So that with that, we've used the document automation process, and we are creating purchase orders associated with that sales order automatically. Once the vendor has fulfilled the order, this is about the only portion in the entire process where a user actually needs to do anything. Once the order has been invoiced, a user will create the AP invoice, and the integration will also create the AR invoice associated with the sales order. The same thing with credit notes. If there are credit notes associated with the invoice, we'll also automate the credit process. Sherry wanted to go a step further and actually notify a vendor that a new order has been placed in SAP. And with that, we've then also created an email automation portion where we'll extract the information from the purchase order, we'll package that into a CSV, and we'll send that through the vendor. At the same time, once the AR invoice has been created in SAP, we'll also notify the customer that their order has been fulfilled and they should expect fulfillment imminently. So these are the types of integration that we love to see and we love to build, something that really touches a few areas of the business, but the key portion is here is that it's almost a completely hands-off process, except for the AP invoice creation and potentially the AR credit creation. This is a fully hands-off document, end-to-end, from order portal to delivery, where only one or two documents need to be created. So it's really doing a lot more with a lot less, allowing you to focus on things that will allow you to add value to the business, not just busy work in SAP. Okay.
Thanks, Francois. Now we'll talk a little bit about some examples of extensions. So we'll go through some add-ons in Business One, some extensions in the web client, and some completely standalone solutions that just we communicate with SAP for. So I'll talk first about an add-on that we've built and deployed for 2 or 3 customers now, container receiving. So the business case here that we're dealing with is you've got vendors that are producing products for you overseas, and that you've maybe got many different purchase orders associated with different vendors in different countries, and you want to combine all of those things and ship them all to your warehouse in Canada on the same deliveries. So you're going to get, in this example, we've got a few purchase orders and they're all going to go into one container. And then when we maintain that container's data, we're going to maintain just the container, referencing all of the purchase orders. So if we get updates from the shipping company about when to expect this delivery, we update the container data, and that can update all of our purchase orders so that the data across the different documents is all in sync. We don't have to go to each purchase order manually, say this is when it's coming, so that if someone's looking it up to say when am I going to get this product in stock, they can trust that the data is probably pretty accurate because someone just had to maintain the container. They didn't have to maintain every single individual every individual purchase order. And then when the container gets received and comes into inventory, we post the container receiving. That's going to go and create the goods receipts for these documents and receive all the items and create all of the goods receipts associated to the purchase orders. So we'll put together a little video here to show what it looks like. So I've got on the screen here, I've got open 2 purchase orders. It's a pretty simple example, just with 2 documents, but imagine it was 20 different documents, 20 different purchase orders. Would be the same process. So I've got those 2 purchase orders. Now I'm going to create a container. So I've spoken with my shipping company and I know what I'm going to put into this container. It's being collated on a dock somewhere. And I'm saying, what's my expected shipping date? I'm going to say, I want to add my purchase orders. I'm going to say which warehouse it's going to go into. And I'm going to add some purchase orders, add new lines from purchase orders. We can add it line by line. We don't have to receive the entire purchase order. You might be getting a purchase order in different shipments. So we're going to pull up individual lines. I'm going to select all the lines for those 2 purchase orders that I showed earlier on there. Add them to this container. Now it's pulled in all the details from the container with the reference to the original purchase orders and how much quantity we were expecting to receive. If I knew that I wasn't going to be receiving everything, I could come at this stage and change the quantity to receive. Any different information they may want to track. Like you can see here, we've got a few different user-defined fields on the side for different pieces of information that are valuable for us to track. Expected delivery date, expected departure date, booking date, production completion date, and anything that we want to maybe track at the container level and have update on all of the existing orders, we can do that. So now we created that container, and I've gone and updated the container here. Is it going? It says, oh, it's a little bit small. I'm struggling to read it here. Okay, it says it's updated the fields. So if we go back to the purchase order now, and we refresh that, now I can see all of those dates have been updated on my purchase order. So now if I'm running my material resource planning, my container's been updated. It's updated all my purchase orders, and that's all going to feed through to the material resource planning. So when we run our scenarios, we have updated data, knowing when to really expect this. Also, if you've got customers calling and saying, when is my order going to arrive? The sales rep that they called can look at the purchase order and they can trust that that data is accurate because it came from the container. Wasn't relying on one person entering the data 50 different times for 50 different purchase orders. And now we go and receive that container. So I'm pulling up the container, finding the existing container record. Now I've pulled up the record. I'm going to say, what's my actual receiving date? Putting it as today. Update that, and then we'll receive the container, and down in the bottom here it's telling us that the goods receipts have been created. So if I go back and update the purchase order, look at the relationship map, I can see that the goods receipts have been created for this. Now we've even got some extensions on this that you can go and launch the landed cost module. So automatically take all of the purchase orders that were in that container, all the goods receipts that just landed, launch landed costs, and now put all of the items that were in that container, all the goods receipts in that container. You know what the shipping cost was for that container, and then SAP's container the landed cost module is going to go and do its calculations to adjust the inventory values in the system based on landed cost, bringing in your customs fees, bringing in your shipping fees, and absorbing that into the cost of your products. That was the container receiving module. Now I haven't got any videos of this mix and match add-on, but this is just another example of an add-on that we built for a customer to give them the ability to offer different kinds of discount structures for customers. So you're probably familiar with walking into a grocery store and you want to buy a few cases of Coca-Cola or Pepsi products, and maybe they say, if you buy one, it's $10, but if you buy 3, they're $7 each. You're probably familiar with Business One's process of pricing structures. They have period and volume breaks, but only for a specific SKU. They don't have a mix and match functionality. So this is an example of a functionality that we built for another customer so that they could offer that kind of functionality to their customers. So in the use case we've got here, we created a mix and match volume discount rule. We've added 3 different product codes on here. We said a Coca-Cola in a 30 case, Fanta in a 30 case, Sprite in a 30 case. And we've said if they buy 5, a combination of 5 of any of those 3 kinds of SKUs, they'll get a 5% discount. If they get 10 or more, then they get a 10% discount. If they get 15 or more, they get a 20% discount. So then when we create a sales order, in this case, I've got a quantity of 3 across those different items on my sales order. I've got a calculate discount button here at the bottom. It'll trigger if we click that button or if we click add and view. And it's going to go, we've got a quantity of 3, and it's giving me a discount of 0 because I haven't hit one of those rules. But then I update my sales order, and I've got quantity of 2 of each of those products. And now I'm hitting I updated the quantities to 2 for each. Now I'm hitting the 5 discount rule because I've got a total quantity of 6, and it's added a discount for me of 5%. Same concept here. Now I've updated the quantities. I'm hitting the 15 quantity discount rule, and it's automatically applying the 20% discount on the order. So it's an example of giving a new functionality that wasn't there out of the box. It's not a different product, it's not a different business process, but we're extending the functionalities so that you can now give your customers potentially different buying options, buying different ways that they can order your product, different discount strategies. So you can maybe try and think of things that can help you convert your sales. And then the matrix adding. So this company works in the apparel industry. So they've got products of a specific style that come in many different variants. In this case, we've got size variants. So here you've got, they're selling boots, and these boots come in a range of different sizes. And instead of having to type in, okay, I'm going to add that size, then add the quantity, type in, add that size, that SKU, that quantity. There's a button on the order that says open the matrix adding program, and then we'll say, what style do you want? So in this case, it's the 550s I think I've got there. And then it brings up, looks at the master data, and it says, these are all of the variants that you have available. It comes in all of these different sizes. And you can then type 16. How many size 3s do you want? I want 16. Tab, how many size 3.5? 24. So if you were trying to take an order like this over the phone, speaking with the customer, you would have to probably write it down on a piece of paper because you probably wouldn't be able to keep up with the order, adding each line to the order as you were going along. But if you now have the style here, and it has all the list of the various options, you can just tab, 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 and then when the customer says, okay, now let's talk about the next style, we'd add the next style, bring up all the options, and then once we've entered all of these options here, just hit update, and it'll go and add them all on the order. So to make that work, we've added some business objects, some custom business objects that we created over here, called a style master. So we added a style master that defines what's the style code, and what are the different variants that it comes in. And then on the item master, we've specified this is the style, and we basically link it back to the style master so that when we open that matrix screen, it reads these 2 pieces of data together, and then it presents that screen. So just an example of an extension. Well, this is an add-on. This is an extension, not adding new business processes, but allowing you to speed up a process, reduce your time entry. So now you can speak with the customer on the phone and take it in rather than saying, I have to write this down first and then put it in. You can actually process the orders in real time. Now we'll talk about another example here. This is a camera app. This camera app example that I'll show you, this is a completely separate user interface. This isn't an extension that we built on top of SAP. This is using some of the Fiori framework, but it's implemented as a completely standalone option. And the business case for this is we've got a customer that processes very unique products that are repurposed, something that's been reclaimed from industry, maybe a pump or a motor that's been salvaged from a plant that's been taken apart, and they now bring this product into their system and they want to inventory it. And because it's a used product, they need to take photos of every single product that comes in through the door so that they can capture what's the condition that it's in. They can't just take a photo once of your product and just rely on that photo forever for all the different variants that you get. So, but if you have to think about how would you do this in Business One manually, you'd have to take the photos, save the photos on a USB stick somewhere or on your desktop, and then you go into SAP and you go add attachment, and you'd have to add the attachments, find the files in your folder. So get into the video here. So we'll start off with, now this is the user interface we built. It's in a browser. So I've opened the browser to the item selection screen. I'm going to search. I've already done a search here for the word test item. So I found my test item. I'm going to select it. now brings up my camera page. So it's now using my web camera that's connected to my browser. I position it, take the photo of what I want. Now over here I can go and I can see which photos do I have on this product. We'll take another photo from the other side to show the condition of that. Click there, take photo. It's going to add the photo for me. And now I'm going to reposition. I don't want this photo that was already here. It's not even drawing properly. So I'm going to delete that one. I could also rearrange the order of the images there. Saying upload. So it's successfully uploaded. Then I'll flip back to SAP. And this recording software that I was using really slowed my computer down. So flip back to SAP. Right now there's no images on this product. I'll refresh it. And now the images that we just took have come in. They're available on this product. We also added a watermark on the image as it was being recorded, so that when this gets posted through to their e-commerce platform, it's already got the watermarks in it.
So for that piece, it makes sense for the item master data. Would it also be possible to upload the picture to a different type of document, like a service call or a sales order or something like that?
Yeah, any document that we wanted to do it on. This was how we did it. I didn't show it in this one, but this particular customer also uses batches. So because they'll create one item, but they might get the same item in 4 or 5 times. And instead of creating 5 different item masters for the different versions of the product that they receive, they create different batches for it. And then we upload the images of that particular unit of that product to each different batch. So. And then web client extension. I think this is the exact same video that Irene showed earlier. So I think everyone was in that presentation. So we'll kind of go through it quickly here. Oh, there. Just taking a while to get going. So I think this is the same example Irene showed earlier. It's actually one of SAP's examples. We've done a few web client extensions, but some of them had customer sensitive data. So we didn't want to include that in this demo here. So this was the example we showed earlier, opening a business partner. We've added the Sales Assist tab. Almost a trivial example here, just looking at what's the last 5 items that you sold to this customer and then giving you the ability to initiate a Google search for it. You could, if we were doing an extension, this is almost trivial to just open Google and do a search, but you could click it and start the process of adding it to a sales order, for example. We've got a lot of flexibility on that side to change the process. This is just really one concept of what could be done. Or open your product in Shopify, yeah, exactly. We've got the data. We could open it on your Shopify site to take a look at the item on Shopify if you've got a Shopify catalog. And then the other example, some of the examples that we've done in our tests for building web client extensibility, we've done examples of kind of what you've seen in formatted searches, possibly, if any of you are familiar with a formatted search, just executing a business rule, filling in a field based on some predefined logic or predefined information that you maybe have to calculate. Maybe one of the examples that we used before was giving a field where someone could enter what is the desired margin that they want on the sale. We know what the cost is, we know what the standard selling price is, but someone whose sales are based on margin, we gave them a button to say, tell us what margin you want to get out of this, and then it will update the sales order price to reflect what that was. That was just one example, but I think the example here that we were showing was the same one from earlier, so I'm not going to go into that one too much.
I just have a question. So the sales assistant piece, we're working on something right now where our parts team it looks like that extension where the box comes off to the side.
Yeah, that was a different, that's the, that one's based off of historical sales of customers. That's a built-in feature of the web client and the existing client. That's the recommendations engine of SAP.
So it's not sales assistant.
No, this was just an example that this was the last 5 orders sold, not the most. I think the recommendations engine is the most popular, And it's based on the sales volumes to that customer, or if you don't have enough sales volume data for that particular customer, I think then it just looks at generic sales data. This is really just an example to show the web client now has extensibility, because for a long time, so it's been out since 2021, the web client, but only in May of this year did they start introducing extensibility. And the reason it took them so long, SAP said it's all around security. They spent about 80% of their development resources focusing on the security aspects, because when you're in the thick client, you kind of have a lot of control of what's going on. People can't, if you have a virus on your computer, it doesn't know how to read what's going on SAP. But when you're in a browser, you've probably seen browser extensions, and you've got browser extensions in Chrome that can go and highlight fields for you and change the views and change things on screen. So that's what you're dealing with when we move to a web client and you're in a browser. Now you've got a browser that can have extensions and can do other stuff in it. So SAP had to spend a lot of time making sure that they built security layers in so that those things can't be taken advantage of and do things in SAP that you wouldn't want them to do. We don't want someone putting in a bad extension for Business One that's going to go and create outgoing payments every time that someone opens Business One and says, I want you to create an outgoing payment to this bank account for me, thanks. So that's why they spent a lot of time getting the security aspects down before they released it to us. So in summary, why are we going to do business process automation? Biggest item is you want to leverage efficiency. You want to improve efficiency, reduce busy work so that people can spend more time focusing on critical business decisions rather than just entering data. I also want everyone to take away that what's available out of the box of SAP, that's just the core processes. It's not where the story ends. There's a lot of integration and extension and add-on capabilities that you can leverage to really extend your offerings, to help you automate things, help you add business processes, help you track more information. And then we talked about the digital core concept. We've talked about that enough today. I'm going to not talk about that one anymore. And just talk about the fact that we have different technology platforms. So we showed the web client extensibility in SAP, taking best-in-class solutions and working with them together and making them speak together. And then, like the camera app, building a completely standalone application that just knows how to speak to SAP and update SAP. And then I'll open the floor if you have any questions. Yes?
Thanks, Cameron. That was really good. So we have the next level of automation that we're looking for is, so we have vets who are making vet calls to producers. They basically, the vet comes off a farm, they're scripting, what they've just told the client. We're looking for a way to automate that, but we're also looking for how can we, before the vet leaves the driveway, bill the client and generate an invoice at the same time. Because today, the order comes in, or at the end of the month, we have somebody who's looking across multiple Outlook calendars and going, okay, John went to these 5 clients, how long were you there, what product did you leave, how much time, your mileage, all of that.
There's a few options there. I mean, depends what we want to give them access to. You could give them web client access so that they could open the web client from their phone and enter it. Depends how skilled they are. Even some of like the service call example that they showed for MyWave, that might be a good candidate for something like that. Yeah. Building a wave that says, I was at this location for this customer. Maybe we say we were there for 2 hours. We have logic to say how much time they spent there, and if they use specific products that you need to add line items of items on the order, maybe you could say, build that in so that they could, like the example that they showed on MyWave, maybe it dictate into your app, and maybe you don't want to create an invoice directly, but maybe create a draft invoice that someone in the office would go and review before issuing it to the customer. Or you could give them web client access, or you can build a custom form that they could open from their phone. It's a lot of options. It just depends how interactive we want it to be for that vet.